Bob Odenkirk's actually the reason that I really started. I was working at a record store. He was just a customer. And he said, God, you're one of the funniest guys I've ever met. Have you ever thought of doing stand-up? I was like, I hear that from some people.
And Bob Odenkirk discovered you.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hi, and welcome to Chiaspora, the show where we interview those who left Chicago, but Chicago never really left them. Today we are with Jimmy Pardo, friend and colleague. You will know him from the Never Not Funny podcast, one of the longest running comedy podcasts of all time since 2006, I believe.
That's true.
You will know this man from Conan. He was always the fill-in guy for Andy Richter when he wasn't around. You did the warm-up stuff.
Did warm-up for 7 years.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And now he's still doing the podcast. That's the main thing right now, yes?
It's my living. Luckily, thank heavens people like it and continue to give money to listen to it.
Well, that's awesome.
And advertisers and stuff like that. But I'm very grateful that my co-host and producer Matt Belknap came to me 2006, came to me 13 years ago and said, do you want to do a podcast? And he was just a fan of mine that was coming to my live shows at the UCB Theater. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but okay.
Right.
And then we did it, and some people didn't know what it was, and then eventually people knew what it was, and now podcasting's a thing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody and their mother has a podcast.
Everybody.
And now I have a podcast.
Mark, it went from me saying, hey, do you want to be a guest on my podcast? And people going, what, you sit around and talk like fake radio? To now it's like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? I'm already doing too many that week. Like it's I have my own now. Like it's crazy how it went from nothing to oversaturation.
But you've done a lot. You've had a lot of people. It's gone forever. You have a
Podcastathon.
I didn't want to mispronounce it, but you've had huge names.
Yes.
Part of it. You've raised last time up to $1 million.
$1.5 million.
That's insane
for Smile Train. Yeah.
Can you just real quickly explain what
Smile Train is? The great organization that goes to third world countries and performs the surgery for cleft lips and cleft palates on children, sometimes adults, that can't otherwise afford it. Each surgery only costs $250 and only takes about 45 minutes.
And you went down there. I read about this.
Yeah.
You've gone down to experience that.
Yeah, my fellow co-host and I went down to Mexico, and we were there maybe 3-4 days, and we went and visited families that had the surgery, and then we visited with families that were going to have the surgery. And then we watched a surgery. We literally were in the operating room while they were performing it on a little baby.
I mean, are those parents like hugging you like while this is happening?
They were. It was one of those, without putting too much weight on it, but it was one of those life-changing moments
sure.
You see how well off we have it. No matter how bad of a day you're having, we have it pretty good here. And these people, they were grateful that we were there, and it was just the kids were just full of joy, and we played with kids for 3 days, and piggyback rides and stuff like that. I mean, they didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Spanish, so I don't.
It was body language all day.
It was all that. It was just, and the kids were full of smiles, and it was wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, dude, congratulations.
Thank you.
$1.5 million.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you about this. But I remember you were excited if you got like $30,000.
Yeah, the very first year we made $6,000, and I thought that was crazy that our fans. And it's so funny because, and I appreciate you saying that so many people say congratulations, but all I'm doing is putting on a show and being a clown. It's the audience that donates that money. And so to raise, and this past year we raised, anyway, the first year, which was 2009, we raised $6,000. The next year we made about $13,000, and then it climbed from there. And then last year was about $250,000 for the event, which then put us at 1.5 million, and it's the fans, it's the people donating the money, and I'm very, very lucky that my quote unquote famous friends are willing to come and donate their time to participate and help us raise the money.
Yeah, you've had Conan on, you've had
Conan, John Hamm, Sarah Silverman, John Ross Bowie, Andy Richter,
Zach Galifianakis, maybe?
Zach has done it many times. Lauren Ash from Superstore, Lisa Loeb, Colin Hay. Tommy Shaw of Styx, like all these people are just willing to, donate their time, and it's Kevin Nealon.
It's amazing.
And then some of them will, like, if they haven't gotten an email from me, I'll get an email saying, "Hey, when's the event this year?" And so like they want to be a part of it, and it's they just show up for 15 minutes and then they move on. So I'm very grateful that the fans donate and that the people donate their time.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, you went from literally just talking in a room to making $1.5 million for people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we went from
That's a
Smile
feat.
Train not knowing who we were,
Right.
and why did they get a $6,000 check from Never Not Funny Inc. To now Smile Train is part of it. They come to the event, they promote it and so on and so forth. It's it's
deal.
really fulfilling. It really is.
Congratulations. man.
Thank you.
You were asking me off air about this title.
Yes, I don't know what it means.
Do you know the term about diaspora?
I don't. I'm not a smart man.
You are very smart. Man.
Yeah, but I'm dumb. So what does it mean?
Diaspora means when people leave their homeland.
I've never heard it.
And so I've always thought about people who had to leave Chicago and have done amazing things.
Yeah.
But I think it's time that I reel people back in and talk about those.
Talk about the homeland.
Because why not? People like talking about it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is how I met Jimmy. So
Yes.
I had heard Jimmy about the whole podcasting thing on the periphery from a friend of ours, David Churchirillo.
I don't know what he's doing these days.
Writing.
Well, good for him.
He's doing pretty
He's a very
well.
talented guy.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah.
But what's funny is I remember you were vying for a position on a show that I was producing.
Yes.
And we had this crazy audition process where we were just flying through people.
Mm-hmm.
And you were one of the guys that I remember thinking like, I think we were both trying to feel each other out. Like, well, what has this guy done? What has this guy done? We had so much fun.
We did. I think I rubbed people the wrong way at my first meeting because the guy that was in the week before me was not. You guys did not care for him.
No, we know.
Or maybe it was the person two ahead of me. I don't know what it was.
I remember exactly who it was.
Well, I do too, but I'm trying to distance myself
about
from it. And I think by the first day, you and I clicked. And David and I clicked.
Yes.
And Andrea and I clicked, of course. And it was it's interesting when you say I was vying for that role.
Well,
it was presented to me like you're one of three that are going to get this if you want it.
Right.
And
you were.
I was, and I had to walk away from it because I got the show on Science Channel.
Which, by the way, I was. We'll talk about that later too. But it was a cool thing.
That was a great show.
It was a cool show.
But I wish I could have done both, but I understand why Science Channel didn't want their host of their quote-unquote smart game show that was about human nature and how people relate to each other to then every morning be looking at naked boobs. So I understood their logic, but it would have been...
By the way, for everybody who doesn't know, it's called Playboy. That's where we were.
Yes.
We didn't even mention it. It was Playboy.
And it was a ridiculously fun show.
It was a great show.
Yes.
It just so happened to be an interesting place to have our experience of working together.
Yes. But I thought that we could have that Playboy morning show. I think if we working together, me, you, and David, and Andrea, I think we could have made it something really special. Cool. And I know you did with Dan Cummings. Is that who got it?
Dan Cummings. Yeah, he turned out to be a really good host.
Yeah.
And Dan's doing great. He has his own podcast.
Yeah.
Plug it. Time Suck. It was it really is informative and insane. I don't know if you ever listened to it.
I don't listen to a single podcast.
Yeah, you got your own work cut out for you.
Yeah.
But we were like the most mainstream show, and even the week you did, it was like we had so much fun. I still have a memory in my head of you going, "Take it off." When I meet other Chicagoans in town, I feel like automatically I know who they are without having to say much. South side, north side, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
We dealt with snow. We get it.
You're right.
It's that kind of thing. We love LA, but we have allegiance. Definitely to certain sports teams.
I have allegiance to the White Sox and maybe a beef sandwich, otherwise, and pizza.
Right.
But my dad is there, my brother is there, and I've got some other family there. But I've been here 25 years, which is a long time, and it's more than half my life. So this is kind of more home than Chicago is at this point. But I mean, obviously, I'm not ignoring my growing years. But
I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong. When you grow up in Chicago, I don't know. There's this blue collar thing that I always felt, and I think a lot of humor comes from whether it be struggle or through your parents' struggle growing up. I heard all the stories. Immigrants, they came from everywhere, but a lot of them settled in Chicago, meat packing plants and so on. So hardships usually lead to humor. That's how I've always felt.
I think that's what I mean. I'm not the tallest guy, so growing up, I got picked on a lot.
You're 6'6".
So no, well, I guess I'm sitting across on the floor right now. So it comes from that, but yeah, we grew up. I grew up in the south suburbs. Initially at 80, actually in the south it's part of the city. It's 76th and Cicero, right by a mall called Ford City Mall.
Yeah.
And then we moved to hometown at 87th Cicero. And then we ended up in Oak Forest at 159th and Cicero. We loved the street Cicero. So we just kept going south. But we were, the house in hometown was $25,000 and it was 900 square feet. We were not rich people. So to speak to what you're saying about, struggles and stuff like that. It's like, my mom was a single mom for a while before she met before my stepfather came into the picture. And, I'd see my dad on the weekends. And so it was all of that, which I think, and then combined with Chicago, which does have, Chicago does have this inferiority complex as a city of wanting to prove it's cool because, even though it's known as the second city, it does have this thing like, yeah, but we're better than New York. It's like, yeah, okay, nobody's fighting. You're the only person fighting this. It's just New York doesn't care about you. You're fighting some fight that doesn't exist. So I think all of that plays into that.
Sure.
Long-windedly agreeing with you.
Where did you actually go to school?
Well, I went to Hometown Elementary.
Okay.
In Hometown, and that was, I think that was second grade through eighth grade, and then we moved to Oak Forest, and I went to Oak Forest High School.
Gotcha.
And this was, far south, 159th Street. And then I was there for that. And then I managed record stores on the south side and stuff like that. And then
that was your first official gig coming out of school?
Well, I worked at gas stations during high school and stuff like that. But my first, I didn't go to college. I went, I took 2 years off and assistant managed record stores. And then I moved out here. I moved to Pasadena and went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts for a year. And then back to Chicago because all those teachers and the people in charge of the school decided for me that I'd be better off doing stand-up than trying to pursue a career in the theater. And again, I probably fought that, but yet agreed with it. So then went back to Chicago, managed record stores, worked for MCA Records as a sales rep for a record label, and then eventually quit to do stand-up.
What kind of kid were you? Were you always the jokester, or were you kind of the guy who, were you more doing sports? What was your thing?
Oh, I tried to do sports. I tried because in Chicago, you kind of have to do sports. At least in the 70s, you had to do sports. And if you didn't do sports, nobody understood. Well, then what are you doing? It's like if you're not going to play basketball, and I was on the basketball team. I'm 5'4" now. What was I then? 3 feet? It's ridiculous.
Wait, how old were you when you played?
I was
high school?
No.
It was grammar school.
I told the story on Conan, by the way, of me because I was on the grammar school team and really just filling out a roster. That's the only reason I was on the team. But I tried out for high school, and this is 100% true. At the tryouts for high school, and it's high school, so they're men. These are, even though they're my age, 14, 15,
sure.
they're
huge.
They're 6 feet tall,
yes.
And I'm not.
Right.
And so why am I doing this? So I was dribbling and just throwing up brick after brick, just missing shot after shot. That I heard as I'm going past, I heard the assistant coach ask the head coach, should I get Pardo out of there? And the head coach going, leave him in. I think it's pretty funny. And
well,
it of course it crushed me at the time, but now I think it's hysterical. But it made us who we were, or makes us who we are. But to answer your question about being funny, I was in grade school probably considered the class clown. And then in high school, because I was new to the high school, they all kind of grew up going to elementary school together. They all went to the same high school. I kind of was a little quieter, at least at first. And there was another guy who was the class clown who would do all the heavy lifting. And then I would just make a sarcastic comment in the back and get a bigger laugh.
You're the one-upper.
Yeah, I was that guy. And I wasn't trying to one-up him. I wasn't trying to show him up. I was just my sense of humor. So I would mutter something to the guy next to me, which would then get a bigger laugh than whatever he did with his crazy dance or whatever the class clown would do. So,
and that was Norm Macdonald.
And that gentleman, yes, was Steve Martin.
Right.
So but I'm sure some of those people in high school maybe they would consider me a class clown. I don't know. I didn't see myself.
But it wasn't like yearbook class
clown.
No.
In fact, I wasn't even when they do the stupid voted to be whatever, I wasn't even funniest kid in the class. It was, this other guy.
But you were just a clever kid. That's
and I found my group of friends, and we were funny together, and
But you were saying that you played the sports. I assume you watched the sports. You're a Sox fan. You're wearing the shirt.
I'm a Sox fan, yes.
Did you go to Comiskey a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Is that
Of course.
thing?
Went to Old Comiskey a ton. My dad would bring us on a regular. We would go to Comiskey, and my brother was a Cub fan. And I'm not one of these Chicago guys that hates the other team.
Neither am I, by the way. I have my allegiance a little bit more to the north side. I have a little more connections. That was my first job out of in high school.
Wait, what'd you do?
I sold pop.
You sold
soda for everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was that guy. And that was like my high school job for a little bit. But worst job I ever had.
Why was it awful?
You want to watch the game because you're a fan.
Yeah.
It was when Sammy Sosa was cranking home runs. So that was the only time I got to watch because nobody would buy
93? No, 95.
No, further. It was
98?
No, it was not 2000, 2001, 2002.
He was still hitting home runs then?
That was his big time. Well, 98 he was like
98
the McGuire thing.
Yeah.
But he was still cranking them.
Right.
I mean, they went to that big 2003 was when they still hitting home runs in the playoffs.
Yeah, you're
where
right.
We lost. But it was still one of those things. He was doing amazing. I hated it because it's a lot. Anybody who's a vendor in Chicago, people take advantage completely. They don't have a clue, like getting somebody up, bringing it all the way up the stairs, handing you beers or handing you sodas or whatever it is. It is heavy for a 100-degree day.
Right.
And like everyone's drunk. So no one's nice.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone's just being mean.
Yeah.
And then, you can't watch the game.
Yeah.
The very first game, the biggest mistake I did, it was a doubleheader against the Cardinals. Okay, so that's the biggest rivalry. It's standing room only. I don't know what I'm doing at all. It's my first day. My cart, my whole thing fell off. I had to have fans help me out. I spilled on people.
Shit.
It was no, it's okay. You can curse. It was so bad. It was, and I remember thinking, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
I love baseball, but I can't do this. Did it for like a few weeks.
Oh, that's it. Then you bailed?
I couldn't do it anymore. My friends did it for longer, but a lot of those guys, they're lifers.
They're lifers, right?
Yeah.
Did you get tipped well?
Sure. I think a lot of people felt bad for me.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, of course. But
Right.
it was weird. And if you ever talk to a vendor about this, it's weird. Of what they price things at is a very, very indicative of what you're going to actually get paid. So at the time, if you got a soda for $2.75,
You're going to get a quarter.
that's right.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of quarters.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot more than that. And then eventually they started.
And the guy acting like he's doing you the favor.
Right.
I got
keep
it.
the quarter. And I'm like,
Just give me the bills back.
Right, exactly. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying. You see, I'm struggling.
Right.
But no, the worst is I had a guy one time, we got into a fight because I was so used to getting the quarter.
Right.
So he was like way up. Maybe I missed the cue or whatever the case is. I'm thinking I got the quarter. The dude, young kid, who was like a college kid, chased me down to ask for his quarter back.
What?
It was that. It was that. I don't know if he was drunk. I don't know if he was just trying to prove something.
Well,
but
it's a lot of energy for
yeah,
25 cents.
that's what I was saying. I was about to say, bro, just give me please. I'm
Yeah.
all working here.
Right.
But yeah, it was a pretty shitty experience. I actually didn't like it very much. But anyway, enough about that.
Yeah, it's a shame because that looked like it would be a fun job for a young guy.
For a young guy, maybe who actually doesn't care about watching the game.
I guess so, right.
Sure. I mean, and some of these guys, they rake it. Like they can bring in if you get to the point where you're eventually selling beer, you can make money.
Yeah.
But then you're just a beer vendor, and I'm not knocking like all beer vendors. It's just it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Right.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
So you don't hate the Cubs.
No.
Even when they were losing as much as they were
I
losing.
don't care. What am I mad at? Clothes?
Yeah.
I mean, what am I mad at? A jersey? It's what I remember when people were like, to go back to that era of and was traded for Sammy Sosa.
Right.
People were like, George Bell
George
sucks.
Bell.
George Bell sucks. George Bell. Like, hey, did you hear we got George Bell? Like when he was traded to the White Sox. It's like you hated him yesterday.
Right.
Like the dumb Sox fan. I don't understand. Like
It's the way.
so you're mad at clothing.
Do you remember in Major League? Do you remember this?
I do. I don't know.
There was they played the Indians played the White Sox, and they have this player named Parkman, and Parkman is on the Indians. I was like, oh, he's great, and all the fans love him in the movie.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he gets traded to the White Sox. Oh, everyone,
The
sees
worst.
They make him puke. Yeah. It's very Chicago-like.
It's ridiculous. and so like, I watched the World Series of the 2016 with the Cubs and rooted for them and fell to my knees when it looked like they weren't going to win, and then got excited when they did. In 2005 with the White Sox,
I was so happy for the White Sox when that happened.
Well,
but the thing's, no one ever realized how long of a streak they had.
It was
a streak.
Yes,
and it was right next to the Cubs. I understand Sox fans' pain when they keep on saying things like, "Well, we never get the attention that the Cubs do," and I say, "Well, you're right, you don't," and it's unfortunate. But on the flip side, you have to look at it as, I mean, the Cubs, they've found ways to lose that no one else has found ways to lose. True. So I have to say that they kind of take the cake on that one.
Yeah.
But that's cool that you don't have the hate on that, and you definitely, and you still ever go back? Do you go to games? Do you bring?
I don't. The last time I went to a White Sox game, I haven't been to Wrigley since 1994.
Wow!
So it's been a long time since I've been to Wrigley.
You have to go back.
Yeah.
No, it's different. It's different. I mean, they built the area that they built around.
I know. I've driven past. I know it's like a park now and all that next to it, but it's exhausting. And then I 2012 was the last time I was at, what was it, Cellular One at the time.
Yeah, well, now it's a guaranteed rate field. What a great title. I mean, you take the money where you take it, but it's just...
Yeah.
The cell, what are they? What's the nickname for guaranteed rate? Do they have something? I feel like
I think it's the arrow or something like that, because there's an arrow in their logo. But yeah, 2012. Then before that, it was 2008, and then I can't remember. But I just went to see the Angels. The Angels played the White Sox.
Nice.
Last weekend.
So you do it here.
Yeah.
You go to the games here.
Yeah.
I'll go to the Cubs Dodgers games.
I did too.
Here, which is fun. There are so many. People don't realize how many Cubs people from Chicago just come out to LA in general.
It's bananas when you go there and you could say go blue and you don't know if it's Cubs or Dodgers.
It was the greatest feel. I went when we were going to it was the World Series year.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, whatever. We lost. It was the one big game we lost in LA for the Cubs. And I remember like just looking around, and there were more Cubs fans around me than there were Dodgers fans.
Yeah.
People are hardcore.
Yeah.
And there are some hardcore Dodger fans. 100%. When you go to these games and stuff like that, people ever say anything to you? Has anyone ever noticed you at these things? Are you
sure.
Getting a little bit of attention?
Yeah. You mean for being me?
For being you?
Or just being a Chicago guy?
Both.
Now Chicago, not so much, there'll be high fives with other fellow Sox fans, but
sure.
Maybe once a game, somebody will go, "Hey, Jimmy Pardo," and I'm, "Hey," and it doesn't happen enough where it bothers me. It still gives me
Isn't that nice though?
Yes.
I think that's like the perfect area.
Yeah.
Where it's like once in a while, like maybe somebody, gets you a beer or something like that.
Yeah. My bank account would like if it happened more often, but it's fine. And my son gets a kick out of it. It's like, "Dad, that's really cool. That guy quoted that joke or quoted, that thing you did. I did a character on Conan called Metal Detector Mike, which was I was a character on Baywatch that never existed, but we did a thing about it. And so when people come up and go, "Hey, you were Metal Detector Mike," and so my son gets a kick out of that, and I kind of do too, because at least that's specific to like one thing they enjoyed.
Sure.
But it doesn't happen. It happens just enough where it's like still cool.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah. Again, I jokingly say that my bank account would like, it's really just that. I would like,
that's for your kid too.
Just security.
Sure.
You know what I mean? More than billboards and stuff like that. I'd be lying if I didn't say I got in this, any comic or actor like, "I didn't get into it for that." Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You want a poster on the wall. You want the billboard. You want the star on the Walk of Fame. Sure. BS that you're in it for the art. I mean, yes,
we're in it for the art, but
you're also you moved here to make money and be on television. Otherwise, you'd be doing theater in Chicago.
Exactly.
So yes, I want that, but I'm also, as I get older, I just want to provide, and if I can provide and doing what I love doing, which is being funny, and then great.
No, and you're doing it.
Yeah,
I mean that's the thing. I mean, of course. What are you vying for? Like, what are you trying to get more shows? Like, what?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I would love to get back to hosting a game show, on television, but Alec Baldwin needs a job apparently, so I'm not asked currently.
I'd choose you, I think. So.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to lean that direction, just not the gatekeepers at this moment.
It's okay. I hope I can help you one day.
Thanks, Mark.
I'll see you in 50 years.
Thank you.
But I was going to also ask you, when you started doing this stuff.
Yes.
I'm always curious when people kind of knew this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in Chicago because you came out here. You went back?
I went back, yeah.
And you started doing stand-up there too?
Yeah, I didn't do it here. I didn't start here.
You did it all in Chicago?
I did it in Chicago. Like I said, I worked at a record store, and then I ended up working for MCA Records. And I was not good at my job because I started doing open mics kind of at the same time that I started working for MCA Records.
What were you doing for them?
I was a sales rep.
Got it.
And so, which is, you're a sales rep. You've got quotas and you got anything. But if you're going to be a sales rep, be one for a record company, especially in the 80s, because it was hanging out with rock stars, and it was the coolest job.
Who'd you get to hang with?
Elton John.
Oh, wow.
Tiffany at the time.
You said it's like it's a bad thing. No, Tiffany was huge.
Well, she was huge at the time. That's what I'm saying. Now it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but then, I mean, she was selling out arenas. Who else? Jimmy Buffett, Tom Petty, anybody on the MCA roster. And it was
when they were coming through Chicago.
They would come through Chicago. They would do concerts, and we would go to cover them. Was the phrase? Yeah, who's going to cover the Lyle Lovett show? And I go, I'll go do that one.
Any crazy stories from that?
The one, there's two cool ones. One is with Tom Petty.
By the way, huge fan.
I like Tom Petty. I'm not a huge Tom Petty fan, but I like him. But we were the label and the execs from MCA. We were like in the first. I think we were in like some of us were in the front row and some of us were like in the third row for this concert. And Tom said, "Hey, where are all my record execs at?" And we all got, "Yay, we're right here." And he goes, "Get the F out of those seats and go sit in the back. Let the fans sit in the front." And we all do this walk of shame. At least it's one of those things where I don't remember what we did, but I do remember going to work the next day and going, and everybody kind of being mad at Tom Petty for making us look foolish. But he's right. The fans should be in those seats, not us. We should be there, but not taking up.
You're in your 20s?
I was the youngest guy working at MCA Records.
Oh, really?
I was 21, 22.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I was young. And the grizzled MCA execs didn't really like this young kid coming in. So I never really found my footing. I enjoyed the job, but obviously it wasn't filling that void, even though it was great. I'm working for a record label. I love music. I was really into it. It didn't fill the void as an entertainer, as a piece of talent. So I started doing the open mics, which was my dream, obviously. And then my boss finally gave me an ultimatum and said, you got to decide what you want to do. Do you want to work for us or do you want to pursue this dream?
And you were doing it that much that he actually knew that there was.
Yeah, I wasn't doing my job. I was supposed to be going like to accounts.
Hustling.
Yeah, and I wasn't. I was sitting in my office. Instead of going on calls to the accounts, I would sit in my office and make bookings for comedy clubs. Like I wasn't.
Clearly, yeah.
Well, he didn't fire me. He gave me. I could have stayed, and
Well, but your heart wasn't in it.
No.
And well, definitely in music and anything like that. I mean, there's somebody who's waiting to do that probably even harder.
Yeah, I think a computer replaced me, but because it was right around that time. But yeah, I quit in July of '89. I quit that job, and I've been doing stand-up full-time ever since.
Was there like a moment? Was there like, man, I'm getting enough laughs on this thing. This is something that not only do I want to do, I can sustain it. Yeah,
I guess so. I mean, it was really a leap because I was making crazy money at MCA Records.
Wow.
And it was a dream job. It was, it was really cool to work for MCA Records. But obviously, like I said, it wasn't filling that void. And so I took the risk. It was a 6-figure job that I left to make $150 a week doing stand-up. And I wasn't good. I was learning. I was very green.
You're just getting.
And so I don't know. I wasn't brave and said he gave me an ultimatum, and I wasn't going to stop doing stand-up. And so.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good deal. I mean, who knows? Right now, the bank account might have said something different from
it. Might have, but I would be miserable. And
that's what you always. That's what I tell people all the time. It's like, yeah, maybe we could have been lawyers. Great. But then, what would I be doing being a lawyer? I think,
and just to go back to MCA real fast, I think all those people ended up not having the job in 5 years anyway, because I really believe it flipped over. It's Universal, Universal Music.
They were eaten up. Is that basically how
it was? MCA Universal. It was all kind of the same company, and so Universal actually is this big Like I worked for that company.
Got it.
But
MC was like a Chicago version, or like?
Well, we were the Chicago branch.
Gotcha.
You know, we would come out here for conventions and seminars and stuff at Universal Studios.
Got
The
it.
meetings would all be there. But the jobs went away because people could just click on the internet and order their records. They didn't have to talk to a human. They didn't have to pay a guy, you know, $89,000
Right.
to make a phone call. Hey, how many do you want of the new Fine Young Cannibals? Now the guy can just go on the internet. And so like all those people, I think, were out of jobs. So in a way, I got lucky that my boss pushed me out, because I would have been, if I would have said, no, I'm sticking around, you know, I would have been looking for a job in 5 years.
Where was it? I don't even know where that area was.
Oh, initially it was in Rosemont.
Wow.
Yeah, it was right across the highway from the Rosemont Horizon was our first office. And then we moved a little farther south, but I don't remember exactly where.
How many years? A year? 2 years?
Was I there?
Mm-hmm.
I was there 2 years, from middle of 87 to middle of 89, July of 89.
And then where were you doing your stand-ups? Also in the burbs? Like, or was
Oh,
it
everywhere, all over the burbs and all over Chicago, and every night going out and doing sets.
any place in particular you still love, or if you ever go back to?
Well, the place I loved was a place called the Roxy that was on Fullerton, where I started with Matt Walsh and Matt Besser from UCB, and a guy named Tony Boswell, and we would. That was the place. It's closed, but that was the place where we all were able to be as creative as possible, and we were all supportive, and the audiences were supportive. Then you'd go out to the suburbs, and it was in the middle of the comedy boom, and so there'd be full rooms on a Tuesday night, and you know you'd be able to go out and bomb, kill, whatever, and then you'd leave there and you'd go across the street to another comedy club. Like it was really, there wasn't a bar in Chicago that didn't have comedy night when I started. And some were great, and some were just effing horrible.
Any cool stories from that time? Anybody you saw along the lines where you're like, wow, I wonder if that guy's going to do something well? And then,
Bob Odenkirk. Bob Odenkirk's actually the reason that I really started. I was working at a record store, and he, before I was at MCA actually, and he said he was just a customer. He would come in, Bob Odenkirk, as a customer, and he was funny. And so he and I would be funny together. And
is that like a thing you guys do?
it was, yeah, we'd be funny. And he said, God, you're one of the funniest guys I've ever met. Have you ever thought of doing stand-up? And I was like, you know, I hear that from some people. And he goes, well, my roommate books a show down at the Hyatt on Saturday nights. You should come and watch that. And I was like, okay, I'll come and watch that. And then when I walked in, a guy that I went to high school with named Bill Leff, who's on WGN radio right now.
I've heard Bill Leff.
And Bill and I went to high school together, and we made each other laugh. And he was older than me, but we clicked comedically, and we're still friends to this day. But I walked in with my friends to watch the comedy show, and Bill saw him, and he's like, and I was just Jim at the time. I wasn't Jimmy Pardo. I was Jim Pardo. And he goes, Jim, what are you doing here? Are you on the show? I go, no. He goes, oh, you got to do stand-up. You're the funniest guy I ever met. And so it was like, well, here's two people telling me to do this. And so then I got the job at MCA, and I was like, I'm not ready to do stand-up. And then eventually I did it. And
Bob Odenkirk discovered you.
Yeah, discovers us. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you ever give him a call and you're like, hey, buddy, thanks?
I see Bob from time to time. Bob has done Parkastathon, and Bob, we're friendly with each other when I see him, but he's, an Emmy-nominated gentleman
he's
now.
Done all right.
Yeah, he's done okay.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Who would you say out of the Chicago crew, like, you still hang out with a lot of the guys you kind of...
Matt Walsh and Matt Besser I see a lot. But otherwise, it's like from my quote-unquote graduating class, I still see them when I go back home. But, the guys that moved here, Graham Elwood, Jimmy Dore, Pete Schwaba, they're all, Graham's doing great with, he's doing a political thing. Jimmy Dore's doing a political thing. Pete Schwaba's directing movies and writing on movies. And Paul Gilmartin is one of my closest friends in the world, Mike Schmidt. We all started together. And so I still see most of them.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
But that's what I love when people, you kind of had your boys when you grew up, and now everyone's doing things.
Yeah. And we all kind of moved here at the same time. So we were all struggling here. We would get together and have lunches and support each other. And then we all kind of found our way. We all kind of went in different directions and stuff, but we all still kind of, are successful on different sort of levels. And, there's some guys that I started with doing stand-up that don't do it anymore, but sure. That's good. That's
what they chose to do.
Yeah, right.
So you come out to LA.
Mm-hmm.
You you never had to kind of do the bounce back and forth thing. Because I do know some people who were, except for that one time. I know you came back for that one time, but it wasn't like, were you struggling out here for a little bit? Did you have to go back to mom and dad?
I went back for some money, but what I did, and on reflection, it was a horrible plan, but at the time it made sense to me. I would go on the road for 6 weeks and be gone for 6 weeks on the road, making enough money to pay my rent back here, and then I would come back here for 4 weeks and then try to get Hollywood to notice me. And then as soon as they went, Jimmy Pardo's great, I'd leave for 6 weeks. And so it was, but I felt like I had to make...
You can never get the ball rolling fast enough to do that.
And I probably should have just stayed, like if Uber was around back then, I probably would have stayed here and done Uber, or Lyft and made a living here, or at least paid not a living, but made rent.
Of course.
But I had to go on the road, and it, obviously maybe a better comic and stuff, but so I think it took a little bit longer for me to find some footing here in Hollywood because I chose to do that schedule.
Did anyone ever go, because I've had experienced this myself. Hey, Jimmy, you can come back, right? Yeah, I mean, you did your job. You come back to Chicago, right?
Yeah, what's plan B, Jim?
Jim. I mean, I got 47 needs a new guy to do a little mechanic work. I mean, I could,
I got to talk to him. I know a guy that could get you into the toll booth.
Yeah.
You want to do a toll booth? I mean, that's a government job, Jim. Those aren't easy to get.
Yeah, Uncle Billy did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
I'm not putting it down, Uncle John. I think it's great. Yes, my dad.
The pullback, I call it. The pullback. They're trying to hang on to you thinking, you know what? You don't need this.
That's not going to work out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, comedy's not going to work out, Jim. What are you going to do?
I have an Uncle Bobby who still talks like that.
Really?
He's still Marky, you're making money, huh? Yeah, I'm doing fine.
I have a house.
Exactly. I'm doing just fine.
Right.
And then, but he's just like, oh well, it's hard out there, isn't it? Well, it's hard for everybody, but yeah, we're doing just fine. All right.
Yeah. I don't know why it's just magic to them. It's like, it's the same as you looking for a job, sir. It just happens to be looking for a job.
Still looking for a job.
I didn't know Uncle Bob's having trouble, but
God bless Uncle Bobby.
But we all look for our job at our own location. Like it is that Chicago thing, though, that you can't be doing good out there, though, right?
Say that one more time. I can see my uncle just like looking at me
right
in the living room, just going, "Hey, it's gonna end up. It's gonna dry out."
I mean, that's not gonna last, though, right? But we'll see at Christmas. Yeah, it's. But then it flipped. For me, it flipped. It was that for a long time, and then eventually.
When did they stop? When did they realize? You know what, Jimmy's doing okay.
You know what it was?
Conan?
Even though it happened 2002, and I'd been here. I guess at that point I was here 7 years because I moved here in '95. 2002, I did the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And that's the one.
Hey, Jimmy's on the tube.
Jimmy's on with Jay. Jimmy's on with Leno. And that was the one. And even though I had done other television, I'd done small guest starring roles on sitcoms and stuff.
But when you do that big nighttime
show. It's the Tonight Show. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Even to strangers on a plane, if you go, oh, what do you do? And if I stupidly told them I was a comedian, and we go, oh, you ever do the Tonight Show? And I'd go, no. I'll keep trying. But the second, right. Even though I'm making a living.
Right.
The second I would say, you ever do the Tonight Show? Yeah. Oh, like that.
You're a big deal.
Oh, so you're real then. And I bombed miserably on the Tonight Show. It was horrible. It was a horrible set.
Was it? What was the format at the time? Was it comedy and then sit down talk, or was it just
no?
Straight.
It was,
you did a 3-minute set and that was that.
It was Jay would do the monologue. He threw to a remote. Then the first guest was some regular that he had on, some crazy professor, and then Marissa Tomei, and then I came out to do 5 minutes of stand up at the end, and it did not go well, but it didn't matter. I was able to say I was on the Tonight Show.
And
I was on Jay Leno.
It's not at the time. I mean, internet wasn't as much
pre-internet,
so nobody's looking back at that and going, man,
yeah, it stunk.
But hey, isn't that the best? You just missed the boat.
Yes, if it was a year later, it would have been
all over YouTube.
It would have been, here's a clip of this guy sucking. And so I got lucky that I bombed in this vacuum.
What a great luck story there, because now you're just like, I was on Leno.
I mean, listen, right? It was on the Tonight Show.
Did your mom call you up? We all came to the house and everybody watched. You did great.
Yes, of course.
Because of course they're not even hearing the jokes.
Right.
They're just saying, that's my boy.
Yeah.
And then that guy from high school is like, how did he get there?
Yeah, what?
He was a basketball star.
There is hey, how'd you get that, Jim? I don't know, working hard, doing comedy for a long time.
Who did you have to get on your knees for, Jim?
No, I didn't have to do that, Don. I just worked hard and, eventually it was my job.
How'd you know my name was Don?
Because it's Chicago. It's always a Don. How you doing, Jim? Yeah. So that was it. That was the flip.
But in all honesty, that it is one of those things where I'm sure there's just one moment where you're like, yeah, that's right, fam. Like, for a while, I know you were waiting for me to fit. Because that's the thing. It's do you ever watch Rudy?
The movie Rudy? Of course.
One of my favorite, sports movies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that whole thing where the father's just like, look, you're not smart enough. You're not going to do it. You're not going to make it. You're not going to do it. And then as soon as he does it, it's just like, that's my exactly. Yeah. Look, everybody, my son.
Right.
And I've always felt about Chicagoans. It's like kind of like we watch sports. It's going to go bad. It's going to be bad. Right. We're going to fail. We're going to lose. And then all of a sudden, one thing happens and it's like, of course, we're the best team in the world.
Right, I know.
That's a Chicagoan.
It is a Chicagoan, no question about that.
You do that Leno show.
Yeah.
Are you thinking I can do so much more?
Things started clicking around that time with Hollywood too. Like I was doing a ton of pilots, a ton of game show pilots and talk show pilots. And then in 2003, I got an AMC show that lasted for 6 seasons, and then called Movies at Our House. And then I had a game show on Game Show Network that got picked up for 80 episodes. And then I also did a pilot for VH1 called Bands Reunited. That was, so like I literally had 3 shows at once. And so it was like in 2003.
You're rolling.
And like, here we go. And then VH1 ended up going with a different host, which is still upsetting. But then I had those other 2 shows for, a year and a half together. And then the AMC one lasted a little bit longer. So it was like, here we go. Like it was Tonight Show and these other late night things were happening. Craig Kilborn and, Comedy Central half hour special. Like it all was happening at that time. And so like, it's like, here we go. Hollywood's finally figured it out. And I've consistently worked since then, but not the big splash, but then meeting Conan in 2009.
How did that happen? What was the setup for that?
Oh, great story. I knew Andy a little bit, Andy Richter, from doing shows at the UCB Theater. And I got a call. I remember I was at the ArcLight in Hollywood seeing a movie, and I got a call from my manager saying, hey, and I had the phone on, and I looked, and I was like, oh, my manager's calling, and he usually just texts or whatever, like, or emails. Why am I getting a phone call? And he's like, hey, they want to meet with you right away to do the warm-up for the Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien. And I was like, I don't know. I don't do warm up. That's not bad.
right. I'm not playing the D League. I'm a big time now.
I'm waiting to.
I have 3 shows.
I'm waiting to do my own show.
Sure.
But at the same time, I was like,
did you know who Conan was?
Of course.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. It's like, I remember thinking even one time going, hey, with Conan moving out here, and I loved Conan, and I always dreamed of being on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and I'd done it with Jay. We'd be like, wow, with him moving out here, I think I would fit in on that show. I don't know what job I would have. I'm not really a good writer. I'm a very funny guy, but writing is not my specialty. But it's like, so I don't know what I would do, but that'd be cool if they offer me a job. And then hey, we want to have a meeting. I'm going to pass. I'm good. And I was like, hey, dummy, take the meeting at least. You're a fool not to take it. So I showed up to have a meeting, and I first met with Mike Sweeney, the head writer. And he told me within the first 5 minutes, he goes, here's the deal. We used to have Brian McCann, one of the writers, would do the warm-up when they were in New York. He would write all day, then do the warm-up, and then we would do the show. But now that we're doing the Tonight Show, when we moved out here, we want somebody who just does the warm-up. That's it. He doesn't have to worry about writing, just shows up, and that's his gig. And he said, we were talking about it, and Andy Richter said, well, the guy who can do anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour off the top of his head that has the same sensibilities as our show is Jimmy Pardo. And he said, so the job's yours if you want it.
Wow.
And he said
no audition.
He said we looked at a couple of clips online, and Conan's like, that's our guy.
It wasn't the Jay Leno clip, though.
It was not that, certainly. That wasn't on. And he said we saw that clip. Conan said that's our guy. Offer him the job.
Wow.
And they offered me the job. And I turned it down.
Oh, God.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. So then we walked down to Jeff Ross's office, not the comedian, the executive producer, Jeff Ross. And we walked down to his office, and Jeff talks like this. This is how Jeff talks. And Mike Sweeney goes, yeah,
He turned it down. Jimmy's an idiot.
He's not sure he wants it. He goes, what do you mean you don't want it? It's great. You show up, you do 8 minutes, you leave. What do you mean? And I go, what do you mean 8 minutes? He goes, yeah, because they don't do commercials or nothing.
So, by the way, we should probably explain to any listener.
Yeah.
Warm up for a show like Conan's is you get the crowd in there.
Yeah.
Who's going to be there for the entire show.
Yeah.
And you need them to kind of get ready to start laughing.
Yeah.
That's what you do before the camera starts rolling.
And then most shows, in fact, Letterman's the only other one that I know that doesn't do this, or when he was on.
Right.
Was then most shows, every commercial break, you got to go, all right, guys, you're doing great. Keep up the energy. Let's go, guys.
You're a pump up guy.
And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be a guy throwing out candy bars and T-shirts.
Right.
And so when he said, what do you mean? It's 8 minutes to get out of here. I go, what do you mean? He goes, oh, yeah, we don't do commercial breaks. So, we do halftime commercials and the band plays.
So what turned you around was the fact that it's 8 minutes per day.
Well, what turned me around was not being a cheerleader. What turned me around was you get to be a comedian. And so, but I still was kind of like, I don't know. And so then Jeff Ross gets on the phone and he goes, well, he says he doesn't want it. You better get down here. He says he doesn't want it. So then Conan walks in. I never met Conan. And Conan came in. There was no chairs available. And Conan looked around and goes, I don't know where. And so then he just sat down. In 2019, we say crisscross applesauce. So he sat down on the floor. And I just, at that moment, I went, you're a jerk if you don't take this job. First of all, they're begging you. And also, they're fun. These are fun people. And it's the Tonight Show, you dickhead. Like, what are you doing? So I did the 4 test shows, and then before we went to series, before we went live, and of the 4, the first 3 were fantastic, and the last one, which was on a Friday before the weekend, and then we were going to come back on Monday to start the show,
sure.
And that Friday one, man. The crowd hated me. They hated me.
Like booze?
Like just kind of like,
or just dead,
and not really. You could just tell they didn't like me. And
how is it that one day is it just everybody came from St. Louis and they're just a bunch of guys?
I will never understand it. I will never understand how one group, because it happened after I got the job. There would be certain shows that I would be like, why does this crowd suck? Like, they're coming to see Conan. This is bizarre. Why the attitude? And it could be weather. It could be a bunch of different things. A bunch
of people waiting in line.
Yeah. And they're waiting in line for 3 hours and it's 100 degrees outside.
I've done it.
So that last one, though, was like, from a guy that wasn't really sure he wanted the job, when that last one sucked, I was like, that weekend stressed me out because it's like, well, now they're not going to want me. And then luckily nobody called me over the weekend and I showed up to work on that Monday, and then I was with Conan for 7 years.
That's amazing.
And
he utilized you. You were not just a warm-up
yes.
guy. You did like the post you did a whole web thing.
Yeah.
You did all sorts of stuff.
My personal appearance agent, TJ, said, Jim, this is really smart you took this job because that's a smart show. They're going to realize how funny you are, and they're not just going to let you be a warm-up. They're going to use you. And I'm like, And then eventually I went from warm-up to they had me in a couple sketches. Then they had me do remotes. And then they had me on as a guest. And then Andy had to miss some shows, as you mentioned earlier, where I filled in as co-host. And so it went from that to being part of the team. And then the web series, the Pardo Patrol, which I did, I think 50 or something episodes of that. So yeah, it was, I've had great things happen in my career and I'm very grateful, but that was the best thing to happen.
I always tell people, just do something.
Mm-hmm.
Get in here, intern, whatever it is.
Right.
Just kill it. Just work hard. Because what happens is, as like any job, really, people start wanting to be with you because you care. And if you're like somewhat a desirable person to be around, you don't smell too bad. Like, you're going to get in.
You're going to get it.
And people would rather go to you than they'd rather find some other schmuck on the side. So, of course it worked out for you. You're a good guy, funny guy, and like, that's it. And then you're in.
Yeah.
It's, but I can see at the time if things are rolling for you, you're probably like, oh, what am I going to do? Take a step back?
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Like I'm not a warm-up act. I moved here to host my own show. But thank God I took it. I
Right.
mean, it just was.
I mean, it's probably helped you with other stuff.
Oh my God!
I'm sure it just as a name.
It gave me confidence.
Sure.
It's like I have this great job at Conan, so now I could do my podcast. I could, go on the road to the clubs I want to go to, not the ones not having to pay rent. Like it changed everything.
Which is amazing.
And then also everybody's like, hey, it was great, Jimmy Pardo. So all of a sudden I was on the short list for a bunch of things, and it was a confidence that I had confidence, but that gave me confidence.
I remember when I first watched Conan, I remember I was like, who is this guy? First time, I remember just watching late night TV. I was like, what is this guy doing? He's by far my favorite that I've ever had seen in terms of the late night stuff till this day.
He's second to Johnny Carson as far as I'm concerned.
Unbelievable, witty, everything.
Yeah.
Bits were always funny. And the fact is, you were in the club.
Yeah. When I eventually left the show and they gave me a development deal to come up with the Jimmy Pardo project, sure. He brought me out to dinner and he did say, if there's ever an idea that you want to bounce off me, call me anytime and let's work it out.
That's great.
I never did because
No, it's a respectful thing. It's like if you really, really had something, it's that kind of thing.
There was one that I probably should have, because I think his support behind it would have made this show go. But I respect the hierarchy and of who do I report to? Who does that person report to?
Because eventually, if it goes, you have to go through those people.
Yeah, right. So if all of a sudden I jump over them to just go, well, Conan and I. Well, wait a minute. Why didn't you bring it? Like I didn't want to ever be that guy.
Right. Well, it's. I know some people who have done the leap, and they've gotten luck. And then I've also known some people who
it would not have been luck there. It would have been one of those things like. That wasn't cool, dude.
Yeah.
It would have been that. It would have been like, oh, come on, man.
And you also knew those people.
I also know those people. That's exactly right.
It wasn't from scratch.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
Yeah.
I mean, you say you go back to Chicago, you've driven around or whatever, but did anyone ever say like, hey, we want you to talk to some students or anything?
No, and I'm fascinated. Like, I think it's like we talked about from earlier. I think I'm just that one
notch underneath.
One notch underneath that. One notch underneath of, because they'll have like a guy.
Because I feel like you should.
Yes. I don't disagree with you, Mark.
I think you should.
They'll have, like, my school will have a guy that played minor league baseball.
Right.
And it's like, no offense to that guy, because to even make minor league baseball you got to be a great baseball player. But it's also like, nobody knows that guy's name. They know my name.
Right.
So why am I not talking to the student body?
When we first met, I was like, this guy's like a funny, cool guy that I feel like if you came to my school, like when I was younger and like talked to me about radio, talk about podcasting, TV, whatever, I'd be like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Because there's this, I don't know, you have good energy. Well, put it that way.
But I also think, Mark, and what you just said touches on this. Chicago is so sports centric that they always bring these people in from the sports world to talk to but what about the nerd and the outcast that doesn't play sports, that doesn't know what they're going to do? So having a guy like me come in and go, hey, I didn't fit in either, guys. This was a horrible 4 years for me, but that's who made me who I am, and it'll make you who you are. And you can go into podcasting, you can go into this, you can go into that. You don't all have to play baseball,
right.
And that seems to be very, especially on the South Side.
Oh yeah, no, so South Side, you're playing football, you're playing baseball. I mean, basketball too. I mean, it's all of it is. It really is a part of the culture.
It is.
Do you ever talk to anybody from your old high school or anything?
I don't. I mean, I talked to some people from high school, but not.
You're not like on their like Wikipedia list of.
I am. I'm on the high school, notable alumni. I'm on that.
You made it.
I think I'm also the notable alumni of Oak Forest. I think I'm also on that, like on the Wikipedia page.
Take it.
But I don't think anybody cares.
The fact that you have a Wikipedia page, you're doing all right. I always felt that way. It's like, until you get that Wikipedia page, are you really? But you did it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah. Like Science Channel, for everybody who doesn't know, it was the Race to Escape. It was basically an escape room show, though.
It was two teams competing at the same time in identical escape rooms against the clock and each other.
And you were the host, basically facilitating, describing what's going to happen.
Yeah. And explaining the human nature of it, which is what appealed to me. It was like a great show that families could watch. It wasn't salacious in a way like some reality shows are.
Sure.
This was like, why is that guy being the alpha, and why are the other two falling for it?
Sure.
They all want to win the $25,000, yet they're letting this idiot control them. And so, like, it would be interesting and
it's a dynamic thing.
Dynamics.
And I watched a couple episodes, and I think it was the same way I felt. I was describing your parents watching you on Leno. I was just like, that's Jimmy.
Oh, thank you.
He's doing it.
I loved it too, man. I loved that show, and the fact that we didn't get a second season I was mad for the viewer that we didn't get a second season because I thought it was a great show. Even if I would if it came back and they said, Jimmy, you won't be the host, I would have been devastated. But it would be like, good, at least it's still on,
right?
Because that
it's
show,
alive.
It deserves to be on.
See, what sucks? It was on the Science Channel. I mean, and I'm not trying to bash anybody who has a channel.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, you put that on Netflix, maybe it has a life.
Yeah, sadly, those days that's past. That is past. Yeah,
that is past.
Yeah.
What's next for you? And
just like being a dad, I'm do the podcast.
How old's your son now?
He'll be 12 in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And he's the greatest. He's funny and smart and sharp, and
I know your wife too. Good family.
She's the greatest.
Really
my
great
beautiful
family.
wife Danielle.
I worked with her for a little.
I know you did. Yeah, we enjoy being with each other, and like even when I had to leave tonight to come here, Oliver's like, "Oh man," like
tell him thank you.
Yeah, well,
I borrowed your dad for a minute.
And we do. We're fun. We're the three of us have fun together.
That's awesome.
As I'm sure you and your family.
Man, we horrible, miserable.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Then.
Yeah, but I was also going to ask before you have to bounce.
Yeah.
Food.
What food? What
was your favorite Chicago food? Do you still?
Oh yeah, whenever I go back,
pray for that stuff.
When I go back, one day is pizza, thin crust pizza.
Thin crust.
I don't like deep dish is tourist pizza as far as I'm concerned.
Wow. You can walk out now.
The tavern thin crust is Chicago pizza to me.
Where do you go?
Well, I'll go to if I can get to the south side, I'll go to Vito and Nick's.
Never been.
They're on Pulaski, like 67th to Pulaski, maybe 75th. Anyway, they're maybe 83rd. Anyway, they're on Pulaski. Or I'll go my dad lives out in Westmont, and there's some great places out there that I'll go to that I can't think of their name at the moment.
But it's all thin crust. You don't eat the dip dish.
I don't like deep dish. I don't understand it. That's a casserole. It makes no sense to me.
Are you sure you're from Chicago?
Yes, I like a thin, crispy pizza, the Chicago pizza.
But by the way, there are Barnaby's. Have you ever had Barnaby's?
We went to Barnaby's all the time as a kid with the
really thin,
with the crust,
really
the cornmeal crust.
Yes, I miss it.
Yeah,
I miss it. I haven't had it in a long time.
I loved Barnaby's.
But I grew up on that.
Me too. That one was at 79th and Pulaski.
See, I had mine on Toohey and California-ish.
Mm-hmm.
It's north side, north side. Okay, so you got the pizza.
So I do that one day, and then I have to get a beef sandwich the other day.
And where do you go for that?
Well, that'll probably Portillo's is the easiest place to go now, but Buena Beef is great too.
Do you go to the Portillo's out here ever?
You know what? I always
I haven't been there yet.
Usually when I go down to see an Angels game, I'll go to Portillo's first because it's down near Anaheim.
Yes.
We did not do that Sunday when I went this past week. And it didn't occur to me that I didn't do it until we were home. And we were like, Oliver and I were like,
I'm hungry.
I was like, what about dinner? Why didn't we go to Portillo's? So it's that pizza and beef are the two things I have to get when I go back to Chicago.
Nice.
And I'm
not hot dogs. You're not a hot dog guy.
I'll get a hot dog, sure, but one's dinner or one's lunch. So
as long as there's beef and it's like in a bun of some sort.
I have to have pizza.
Do you do ketchup? Do you do mustard?
I do ketchup, mustard, and relish.
You're not from Chicago, I don't think.
I'm not going to play this ketchup game with you assholes. I don't. Mind your business what I put on my hot dog. I don't. This weird Chicago.
Between hats and God, okay.
I don't get it. Like, then you're not. But the ketchup, you're not from Chicago. Shut up. Hey, mind your business what I put on my hot dog. That's my opinion on that.
But you do eat hot dogs, though. And you do not eat deep dish.
I cannot tell you the last time I had a deep dish pizza.
There's a good place out here in LA, but it doesn't really matter.
You're
good for those people.
Good for you guys. I've been there actually, and I had the thin crust. Is it the one in Echo Park?
Yes, Masa.
Yeah, that's it.
How was the thin crust?
It was great.
I never had that.
It was really good.
Was it like comparable to?
No, but it was really good. Nothing's comparable to Chicago pizza. It's although Fresh Brothers is close. That chain.
Never eaten there.
It's close to Chicago pizza. It's not, but it's close.
I was actually in Detroit. Have you ever heard of this place called Buddy's?
No, but is that the pan?
It's pan and it's square.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I didn't think it compared, but it was pretty good. But my question is, if you've tried that?
I have not.
Okay, But you probably, if you don't like the deep dish, you probably won't like that. Anything else you want to plug? Anything else you got going on?
Nah, my podcast. That's it. Never Not Funny.
Anywhere else people follow you? Twitter?
Jimmy Pardo at Jimmy Pardo.
At Jimmy Pardo.
Yeah.
And then what's the podcast handle?
Never Not Funny.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you
Thanks,
very
dude.
much. Have a good one.